Your savings account is lying to you, the number nobody shows you. There's a guy I know named Marcus, smart guy, engineer, makes $115,000 a year. For the last 9 years, he's done everything his parents told him to do. He's got $87,000 sitting in a high-yield savings account earning 4.2%. He checks his balance every month and watches the number go up. He feels responsible. He feels safe. He feels like he's winning. He is losing. And the terrifying part is the bank is showing him a number that is mathematically designed to prevent him from realizing it. My name is Tom, and I spend an uncomfortable amount of time reading the documents that financial institutions publish but don't advertise. FDIC reports, BLS purchasing power tables, Fed balance sheet disclosures, academic papers on real return versus nominal return. In the stuff that is publicly available but written in a language designed to discourage civilians from actually reading it. And when you put those documents next to each other and do the math, a picture emerges that should genuinely concern anyone who has money sitting in cash right now. By the end of this video, you're going to understand why the number on your bank statement is not your real balance, what your money is actually worth in purchasing power, adjusted for inflation compounded annually, which is the number that matters, why the gap between what savers earn and what asset owners earn has widened to a level not seen since the Gilded Age, and what you need to do about it before the next Fed cycle closes the window. Let me start with a story that sounds completely unrelated. I promise it connects. In 1923, while Germany was dealing with the aftermath of World War I, they owed war reparations they couldn't pay. So they did what every government throughout history has done when it can't pay its bills. They printed money. At first a little, then a lot, then so much that by November of 1923, it cost 4.2 trillion marks to buy a single US dollar. Wheelbarrows of currency to buy a loaf of bread. People who had saved their entire lives in German government bonds, who had done everything right, who had been financially disciplined for decades, woke up and found their savings were worth less than the paper they were printed on. Now you're thinking, that's Weimar Germany. That's not us. And you're right, we're not going to see hyperinflation like that. But here's what you're missing. You don't need hyperinflation to silently destroy decades of savings. You just need the inflation rate to exceed your savings rate by a small but consistent margin over a long period of time. And that's exactly what's been happening, quietly, legally, without anyone telling you. Let me show you the actual math, because this is where Marcus's situation stops being abstract and starts being a real problem. Marcus has $87,000 in a high-yield savings account. He's earning 4.2% annually. That means he earns about $3,654 this year. He sees that number appear in his account and it feels like progress. But here's what he doesn't see. The current inflation rate, as of early 2026, is running at approximately 3.4% on the CPI, which means his $87,000 needs to grow by $2,958 just to maintain the same purchasing power it had last year. So his actual real gain, the increase in what his money can buy in the real world, is $3,654 minus $2,958. That's $696 on $87,000. His real return is 0.8%, not 4.2%, 0.8%. And that's in a good environment where a high-yield savings account is actually beating inflation by a sliver. The Fed has already telegraphed rate cuts. If the Fed funds rate drops by 150 basis points over the next 18 months, which is entirely plausible, Marcus's 4.2% savings rate becomes 2.7%. At that point, with inflation running at 3.4%, he's losing purchasing power every single month. His balance goes up, his buying power goes down. The number on the screen is a lie told by subtraction you never see on the statement. Now multiply that effect across a career. This is where the math becomes almost violent. Let's say Marcus continues to save diligently. He keeps adding $2,000 a month to that savings account. Over 25 years at a nominal 4% rate, but a real rate of 0.5% after inflation, his money grows to about $820,000 in nominal terms. Sounds incredible. But in today's purchasing power, That $820,000 buys what roughly $560,000 buys today. He worked 25 years of disciplined saving, and inflation quietly took $260,000 of the result. No robbery, no scam. Just math applied silently over time. Compare that to someone who put the same $2,000 a month into a boring S&P 500 index fund at a historically conservative 7% real return. After 25 years, they have approximately $1.58 million in today's purchasing power. Same monthly contribution, same discipline, radically different outcome. The only difference is where the money sat. That gap, $560,000 versus $1.58 million, is what I call the silent tax. It doesn't show up on any statement. It doesn't have a line item. The IRS didn't take it. The bank didn't steal it. Inflation and lost compounding opportunity did. And the tragedy is that Marcus and millions of people like him will never see it coming because the bank shows him a number that keeps going up. Here's the psychological trap that makes this so persistent. Our brains are wired to evaluate wealth by nominal numbers, not real purchasing power. If I tell you your account has $87,000 today and $90,000 next year, your brain registers that as a gain. You made $3,000. Good. The fact that you need $90,000 next year to buy what $87,000 bought this year doesn't register emotionally. It's abstract. The number going up produces a small hit of dopamine. The silent erosion of purchasing power produces nothing you can feel, and behavior follows feeling, not spreadsheets. This is the same psychological mechanism that destroyed purchasing power for millions of people between 2020 and 2023. The Fed printed trillions. Asset prices exploded. People who owned houses, stocks, businesses, their nominal wealth went up dramatically. But people who were saving in cash, their number went up slightly while everything they wanted to buy, groceries, rent, cars, healthcare, went up dramatically faster. In real terms, cash savers got poorer by double digits while asset owners got wealthier. Not because of hard work or skill, because of where the money sat during a period of deliberate monetary expansion. And here's the part that should really concern you. That cycle isn't over. It's restarting. In December of 2025, the Federal Reserve ended quantitative tightening. They've already cut rates 3 times. And if you read the actual Fed minutes, not the headlines, the actual documents, you can see the bias is toward easier policy, not tighter, which means the conditions that made cash a trap between 2020 and 2023 are being rebuilt right now, slowly, quietly, without anyone sending you a warning. Let me give you a framework for understanding what's actually happening, because the bathtub analogy I'm about to use is going to make this permanent. Think of the economy like a massive bathtub full of money. The Fed controls 2 things: the faucet, which adds money, and the drain, which removes it. When they add money faster than the economy grows, that excess money has to go somewhere. It flows to assets first: stocks, real estate, on anything with a claim on future earnings. Those prices go up. Then slowly it flows to goods and services. That's inflation. Your groceries, your rent, your medical bills. The thing is, the money reaches asset owners first and savers last. By the time inflation shows up in your grocery bill, the people who owned assets have already captured the gains. Cash savers are always the last to benefit and the first to get hurt. That's not conspiracy. That's just the sequence of how money moves through a system. Now let's talk about the mechanism that compounds this problem, because it's not just the inflation rate you need to worry about. It's the compounding math of lost opportunity that turns a manageable problem into a generational catastrophe. Here's the number that changes how you see this. $1 invested in the S&P 500 in 1990, washed with dividends reinvested, is worth approximately $24 today. $1 kept in a savings account earning the prevailing rates over that same period is worth about $2.40 in nominal terms, and slightly less than $1.10 in real purchasing power. That's not a small difference. That's a 22 times difference in wealth outcome from the same dollar over the same 35 years. And yet financial culture has told people for generations that saving is responsible and investing is risky. That framing has quietly impoverished millions of people who were trying to do the right thing. Now, I want to be fair here. Cash is not evil. You need it. You need an emergency fund. You need liquidity. You need money you can access in a crisis without selling assets at the wrong time. I'm not saying throw every dollar into the market. I'm saying the money you're keeping in cash beyond your emergency reserve, the money you're parking there for 5 or 10 years telling yourself it's safe, that money is not safe. It's just losing slowly in a way your brain doesn't register as danger. Let me give you the 5-step framework I'd use if I were starting over with this understanding. Step 1. Calculate your real balance. Take what's in your savings account right now. Subtract 3.4% for inflation. That's what your money's actually worth in purchasing power terms. Do this every year. Make it a habit. The moment you start tracking real returns instead of nominal returns, the psychology shifts. You stop feeling good about 4% and start asking hard questions. Step 2. Separate your cash by purpose. Emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. That money is not an investment. It's insurance. It's supposed to be liquid. It's supposed to feel safe because you'll need it to be safe in a crisis. Everything beyond that, that's your long-term wealth, and long-term wealth sitting in cash is a slow emergency. Step 3. Deploy the excess. The money beyond your emergency fund needs to be in assets that compound at a rate above inflation over time. For most people, that means low-cost index funds, not individual stocks, not crypto, not your brother-in-law's restaurant. The S&P 500, going back to 1926, has returned approximately 10% annualized. Inflation adjusted, that's roughly 7%. You're not trying to get rich quick. You're trying to make the compounding math work for you instead of against you. So step 4, automate the behavior so psychology doesn't derail the math. The single biggest threat to this plan is not a market crash. It's you in a moment of fear or temptation overriding the system. Automate your investments the same way you automate your rent. Make it happen before you see the money. The money you never touch is the money that compounds. Step 5, understand the inflation cycle and position accordingly. When the Fed is cutting rates and expanding its balance sheet, which is what's happening now, inflation is either already elevated or about to rise again. In that environment, the worst place to be is long-duration cash. The best places historically have been diversified stocks, inflation-indexed bonds, and real assets. You don't need to be a macroeconomist to implement this. You just need to understand which way the wind is blowing and not stand directly in it holding a pile of currency. Here's the thing about Marcus that I keep coming back to. He's not foolish. He's not financially illiterate. He reads the news. He knows interest rates exist. He knows the stock market exists. But he was told implicitly and explicitly from parents, from culture, from every advertisement for every savings product he's ever seen, that saving is responsible and the market is gambling. That belief is costing him, quietly, every day. The people who accumulate real wealth, not looking wealthy, actually wealthy, they understand one thing Marcus doesn't. There are 2 kinds of risk. There's the risk you can see, which is the number on a screen going down. And there's the risk you can't see, money, which is your purchasing power quietly eroding while the number looks fine. The visible risk feels dangerous. The invisible risk doesn't feel like anything. But over 30 years, the invisible risk will do more damage to most people's financial lives than any market crash. In 2008, the S&P 500 dropped 37%. Terrifying, visible, painful. But by 2013, markets had fully recovered. The people who held through the crash, who had the psychological fortitude not to sell at the bottom, recovered everything and went on to capture the subsequent bull market. The people who panicked and fled to cash, locked in the loss, missed the recovery, and spent years rebuilding what they destroyed in a few months of fear. The crash was visible and temporary. The inflation that quietly erodes cash returns is invisible and permanent. This is the game. Sauce, not the one you think you're playing, where you save money and it's safe. The real game, where every dollar you earn is in a constant race against the devaluation of the currency it's denominated in. The people who understand this race, who position their savings in assets that historically win that race, end up on one side of the wealth gap. The people who don't understand it, who feel safe watching a number go up while inflation quietly erodes what it can buy, end up on the other side. Marcus is going to be okay. He's 38. He has time. The moment he redirects everything beyond 6 months of emergency savings into an index fund and stops checking the balance for 25 years, the math begins working in his direction instead of against him. But every month he doesn't. The silent tax keeps running. The compounding opportunity keeps being lost. And in 25 years, when he sees the difference between what he has and what he could have had, there will be no one to blame because nothing illegal happened. The system worked exactly as designed. He just didn't know which side of it he was standing on. So go look at your savings account tonight. Not the nominal number, the real number. What does that money buy today? What will it buy in 10 years if it stays where it is? Then ask yourself whether you're actually playing it safe or whether you're just playing it invisible. If this shifted how you see your own money, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Drop a comment and tell me what your current cash to invested ratio looks like. I read everyone. And share this with someone who has money sitting in a savings account telling themselves it's safe. Because the most dangerous financial position isn't the one that looks risky. It's the one that feels safe while quietly running out of time. I'll see you in the next one.